Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. I am Jason, and John is here. And John, before we get into the nitty gritty, I have a question for you.
What is your question?
Before Colorado College started playing, did you know that Olson Plumbing and Heating had been around for 20 years?
It's actually they've been around for over a century, and I'm quite. My question is knowing what little I know about HVAC systems, other than the fact that they cost a lot to replace or repair. Did we have central air? Did we have central air? Did we have those things 100 years ago? So in the 1920s, did we have furnaces in homes like we do today? Did we have gas furnaces back then?
I really don't know. I was just
I
glad
don't know
not to be
either.
hearing the theme song to the Save Mart thing and about the hunting and fishing lodge because I was getting kind of antsy on that one.
You know what
So,
was interesting about the Olson Plumbing and Heating ads? They didn't put an area code before the phone number. I'm like, how many years ago did they make this ad? Which means if they made it several years ago, I mean, how just like very retro to not have the area code.
oh, but Colorado's had two area codes since,
I was gonna
like, just
say,
the Denver metro areas had two area codes since before I left. So,
okay, see, I didn't know that. So that definitely, some states like Nebraska just got a new area code since everybody started buying cellular telephones. So that's very interesting. So yeah, so I don't know, but I will tell you if I ever do live in the Springs, I will be calling Olson Plumbing and Heating or Heating and Plumbing, whatever that. Then Bridget's like, do they work on air conditioners? I'm like, I don't know. I'm curious, and I would call them and ask, but I don't have an area code, so it does me absolutely no good.
well, if you do figure that out and call them, ask them for our check for our commercial for them. So.
Yeah, boy.
All right, so let's talk hockey since UNO actually got to play, and a lot of the teams, particularly those East Coast teams, are not in the same boat. It's very strange looking at USCHO or college hockey now and seeing 2-3 games on a Saturday.
Well, yeah, and College Hockey News just tweeted just a couple days ago that Hockey East was not going to, I believe it was Hockey East, maybe it was ECAC, but I think it was Hockey East, that Hockey East was not going to like formally schedule any more games, that they were just going to kind of get in the games that they could get in here depending on what ramifications there were for COVID. And I do want to apologize to our listeners because the last time we had a podcast was December 21st, the last day of the NCHC pod. And Jason and I gave our predictions for what we thought was going to be a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day series against North Dakota. And that game was canceled because of COVID. And then the following series on the 8th and ninth at,
So are we saying that COVID won that series?
yeah, yeah, as Jason
Was
texted
that our
me,
determination?
he's like, I didn't know, whether when we were picking games, we were supposed to do sweep, split, or canceled due to COVID as the option. So it's been really tough because it's been almost a month since we've watched hockey, since we had a podcast. And so this series that we just finished watching with UNO playing at Colorado College, it was a long haul. I don't know about you, but I kind of got out of sort of the rhythm of the season, the rhythm of doing this podcast every couple of days. And it was hard to get back into it. And a lot of people, I saw our friend Connor Willingham on Twitter was having trouble getting excited. He said about the Monday Tuesday series at Colorado College. A friend of mine last night actually texted me. She's been a longtime season ticket holder. She's gone on a number of road trips with us. I think, if I recall correctly, she has 8 season tickets, and I think two of her in-laws have two of them at UNO hockey games. She's a big fan, but she even texted me and she's like, is it bad that I want to watch, the next episode of Longmire on Netflix instead of watching this game? She was kind of teasing me, but it's, and I will tell you, Longmire is one of my all-time favorite shows, and she knew what a big fan I was. She just recently started watching it, but it was really hard. It was hard for me to get into the games. I was working on stuff this week, and I was working late up until the game time each night. So that's been the hard thing about this season. With all of the COVID delays, you feel like there's no rhythm. It's I don't know. I mean, in some respects, I'd imagine it's what it feels like to be a youth hockey parent, Jason, when there's weather that keeps a game or a tournament from happening, and it either has to be canceled or it has to be postponed to another date. It's a very difficult to kind of get into that rhythm. And it's just hard as a fan. I think it's hard on a lot of fans to get excited about what's going to happen, especially when there are teams around the country that aren't playing at all in college hockey. It's just kind of a struggle to get excited about this sort of patched together season.
I tweeted about my dilemmas of just having to pick between watching NHL hockey and watching college hockey. I usually don't have to worry too much about it. It overlaps here and there, or I can catch a game on my phone and while I'm at the UNO game, and I've had multiple devices running multiple games some of these days.
Yeah, I have a tough time having college hockey games like in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
It's tough because that's when I expect to watch like professional hockey, or even other sports like, for example, college basketball usually has games during the week. But, hockey you think of as Friday and Saturday. Occasionally you might have a Saturday and Sunday, but it's just no like rhythm to this season. And we were hoping after the great success of the NCHC pod back in December that things would kind of hold together and they'd have a successful second half. But they've fallen into the same issues with teams having to deal with COVID issues in one form or another. It's it's made it really, really difficult. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting excited in the second half. I got to be honest with you, Jason. It's really hard. And somebody called me a couple weeks ago and said, "Well, I've heard rumors that for the NCAA tournament, they're thinking because I think it's going to be in Pittsburgh this year, the Frozen Four. I've heard that maybe
Right.
they're going to do all the regionals the week before at the same site in Pittsburgh, and then they're going to do the Frozen Four there." And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I haven't heard one way or the other, but I'm just having a hard time getting excited about it at all because, not all the teams, as we talked about, are playing. And I don't know, Jason.
I think it's for me it's hard with the tournament to get excited not knowing who's going to have a chance at it. There's good teams, particularly Hockey East teams and stuff that you're looking at saying, are they going to meet that threshold of number of games to
Right.
be eligible for the NCAA tournament? And what value do you get if UNO goes, let's do pie in the sky visions here. UNO goes and wins the whole thing, but doesn't, Boston College, Wisconsin, those clubs are um, not in the tournament, and you start going, okay, well, does it really mean anything then that UNO won the whole thing? And I think it's a little bit more solid excitement for me now that UNO with these two games at Cara College are pretty much assured to at least have made the minimum requirement of the number of games. Now it's just a question of, can the guys win enough games to stay in that top 16 and get a seed into the tournament?
Well, and you really bring up a good point on kind of I don't know if legitimacy is the right word, but yeah, if some of these teams aren't in it, because you know as well as I do that a lot of discussions among fans since our Frozen Four appearance in 2015 was the fact that we got into a regional in South Bend with teams that people perceived as not particularly strong. Mankato was the number one, Minnesota State Mankato was the number one overall seed in that region and in the tournament that year, but a lot of people didn't think that a WCHA team like Mankato was as strong as some of the other conferences. So we were in that regional with Harvard, Rochester Institute of Technology and Mankato. And so a lot of people are like, well, we got to the Frozen Four, but we did it against competition that wasn't that great. And so the question is, with something like this, where all of the teams aren't playing, and you add to that the fact we'll play 24 games in the NCHC season this season. It was originally supposed to be 26, but they cut 2 because of the Colorado College COVID delay in the pod. So 17 of those 24 games we will have played at Baxter Arena. Even though those games in the pod might have been considered road games, as an example, or neutral site games, the fact of the matter is when you play 17 of 24 at home, you're only playing 7 games officially on the road. So, chances are if you're a decent team, you're going to have some success playing on your home ice with all the quirky bounces and bobbles that happen and things that you're used to as the home team in those contests. So yeah, it's really, really hard to get pumped up about this, Jason.
I think the takeaway from it is, and hopefully the team has this mentality, but if UNO wants to make the tournament, they've got to be top 13, let's say. Maybe top 14. A lot of it depends on
because there's
what the other conferences do. But
there's no pairwise rankings this year either.
Right.
That's the other thing.
If you're in a situation where someone else gets to impart an opinion onto whether or not you make the tournament, I think there's a lot of things that you can knock UNO on and choose another team over them. And so you don't want to be in a position where anyone else has an opinion on that. If they're going to take 16 teams, I want to be top 13, just to say, we're safe. How can you take a team that might be ranked 17th over a 13th ranked Omaha because of whatever perceived reason you want to give? And so hopefully the guys are kind of in that. And they're probably not even looking that. My guess is that coaches got them pretty focused on the task at hand, which is the upcoming games, and not thinking about what will happen 2 months down the line. And, who knows? Like, this is kind of the classic life comparison, right? Like, live every day you have all those like crazy sayings that you see on t-shirts and wall plaques and stuff, right? But quite honestly, play the game that you've got, play 100% against the team that you're playing tonight, because who knows what happens. You may never see it. Like, look at the NHL. I mean, Dallas went in. Dallas hasn't played anyone because of COVID.
Right.
Florida, unfortunately, hasn't played very many teams because first they had to play Dallas, and now they're supposed to be playing Carolina, but Carolina's got COVID. So it's another situation of like, you have to take every opportunity that you have when you have that opportunity, and you can't think, we'll redeem ourselves tomorrow, because tomorrow may not come.
Oh, exactly right. So yeah, it's something else.
So let's talk about these Colorado College games that we just finished playing on a Monday and a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Game 1, I thought for sure was our better game.
Yeah, I
think
most people would
struggled
agree
out the gate, yep. But we struggled in the beginning, but I thought we really kind of came to our own then, later on as the game went on.
Yeah, as the game wore on during the second period, I think the team kind of came into their own, and obviously our fortunes were sparked by Kevin Conley getting the first goal of the game. Obviously, the veteran Conley has been a bright spot for UNO the past couple of seasons. He is a player picked up through the transfer portal who's turned out to be really, really good for UNO, and he got UNO on the board. And first goal of the night, UNO went up 1-0 in the second period.
Before that, I think you got to talk about the tone setter. I think before Conley's goal was Tyler Weiss on. I can only imagine what he thought he was on side for, because it would have been an awesome play if he was. But he shoots the puck after the whistle,
Yep.
and melee ensues, of course, because that's a big no-no in hockey at any level. Uh, but
Yeah, they really did
I
get
really
upset about
felt
that.
that play, not just that night, but even the following night on Tuesday, really kind of set Omaha up. Like, I think that, you know, Andrews takes the penalty for face masking, which helps a ton because, I mean, Weiss was going to the box for sure. There was no question about that with the way the referees were going. And I think their hand was just tipped because he grabbed the face mask, and that's a no in college hockey, and so they had to call him for that, and that's a 5-minute penalty. So UNO gets a bench minor. It doesn't turn into much for us, but I think that really kind of set the tone and woke us up. But then it's also the reason why every call on Monday and Tuesday night did not go our way. And we got very few power plays. There were a lot of stuff that were called against us that were overlooked by, you know, by Colorado College, by the referees against Colorado College. They called us for that too many men right after the penalties, and not 5 minutes after that, Colorado College has a guy come off the bench and check a UNO player when the other guy was not even within 3-4 stick lengths of the bench, and there was no call on that. So, they clearly, I think, kind of set the tone of they just were not going to be on our side these two games. We're going to have to do it, and I think part of our production, particularly in the second period of that first game, was just us realizing, like, we're not going to get anything. We're not going to any 50-50 battle is not going to go our way, so we're going to have to take this in our own hands.
Yeah, 9 penalties for UNO during the first game against Colorado College, so not a great night for them. One of the players getting a penalty was freshman Caden Bolson, who is a newcomer who was seeing his first action of the season. He was apparently not available back in December during the pod, so it was good to see him in the lineup. Obviously, that's not the most exciting stat to talk about for Caden, but we saw him quite a bit over the course of the 2 games because there were 3 players out for UNO, and 3 of our best players, defenseman Brandon Scanlon, Johnny Tyconic, and Jake Randall. I think you would agree that during the pod they were 3 of our top players. So we did not have them available. I think we're assuming that was because of all of the things that had gone on with COVID that we didn't have them available. So that was
Yeah, with us
obviously.
canceling the North Dakota games, you have to assume, barring any other news, you've got to assume that's probably the reason why they didn't play.
So that also made it difficult on UNO going into this series, not having some of the staples of their lineup this season in there.
I was really worried about all the penalties, with the streak that UNO was on with killing penalties, but having particularly Scanlon and Taconic out.
Exactly.
Those are key members of those penalty kills, and I was worried about what we were going to get from that.
Yeah, UNO really has had a top tier penalty kill unit this season. That has been one of the certainly one of the bright spots for the Mavs. So yeah, Tyler Weiss, you just mentioned it briefly, and we'll talk about him more later. But he definitely was an important factor on the team during these 2. I keep wanting to say on the weekend, but this wasn't a weekend; it was Monday and Tuesday. So yeah, it's on the first 2 days of the work week, I guess you'd say, Jason.
So Conley opens the onslaught of the second period,
Right.
with just I say classic Conley goal. I mean, just
Yep.
hardworking,
Yep.
relentless. Nate Knepke gets a power play goal on a really nice feed from Bruchette.
Yep.
Not like a minute, I think, later or so, it was on our power play that we got that.
Yep.
And that came after that whole 5-minute
Yep.
face masking penalty. It was on that call that we got that power play goal. And then We get another one from Proctor by Proctor from Seville. Sullivan, not Seville. Sullivan.
Yep.
Seville was in net though, so it could have been him, I guess, but no, it wasn't him.
It wasn't him.
It was
Yes.
Sullivan.
So we're up three. We're up 3-0 after two. You got to be feeling good about that.
Well, no, Colorado College gets that goal late in the second.
Oh, they do get that goal late in the second.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Slavin on that cut across killed us.
Yeah.
We've got to do a little bit better job of pushing out from the net to cut off that cross lane because their goals on Tuesday come that they were very productive about sliding a guy through the slot zone and not really getting challenged too much. So hopefully they tighten up a little bit there. But yeah, he cut across there in that last minute.
And they were without one of their best players too, in Grant Crookshank, who was out with appendicitis this weekend. So so they were hamstrung a little bit too. Let me ask you, UNO got a penalty during the second for too many men on the ice, which has been kind of an issue for them this season. What do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, maybe you don't. I just thought I'd.
I mean,
it happens. I mean,
it happens. Like sometimes it's not a big deal. There was a play in the pod where Weiss was coming to the bench, and it's just kind of a I'm sure it was a miscommunication thing, right? I never saw him wave, but I'm sure that he made the motion to the bench saying I'm coming to the bench and then decided to play the puck. But he was in the best place to play the puck. Like you want him to have that puck in that position.
Right.
So
yep. Exactly. I know exactly.
One of those.
Yeah, I know exactly what you were talking about. Yep. That play during the pod.
Yeah.
Yep. It was an opportunity that you really didn't want to pass up. You know what I'm saying? It was worth the risk.
Yeah. This one I think was more of, and all of my referee friends that are listening to the podcast are going to hang me by my neck on this comment, but we never do this. Yeah, well, it kind of happens a lot to be too coincidental. But I think that one was more of a, in any other situation, you probably would have let that one go. But your guy shot the puck after the whistle. I was forced to call Colorado College for 5 minutes because he absolutely grabbed the face mask, and there's, that's not a call that's supposed to be objective in any way. Like that is, he did it, he goes 5 minutes. That's the penalty. It's not a, is it 2 or is it 5? It's grab the face mask, 5 minutes in the box, no questions. So that was kind of one of those, I don't want that to be the reason why, because it's a 0-0 game at that point in time. I don't want that to be the reason why you get a goal. And so it was like, I've got to find a reason to level the playing field after Weiss's penalty expires. So that's my feeling on this. So I'm not too worried about this one. It was something that I was concerned about in the pod because it seemed to happen to us a lot.
Right.
Is that there's a little bit of miscommunication, and I think that's just kind of some of a lack of focus usually. So hopefully coach is just kind of preaching to them, like, pay attention, know your guy, know your role, know the situation, and make better judgment calls. Is basically all it comes down to.
Right. And I will tell you, that was it. The second period, as far as scoring for UNO, that was it. We scored 3 goals in the third. We went up 3-1 going into the third, and ultimately we didn't score any more. But Colorado College scored another goal late.
They did, sandwiched around a hat trick of penalties by Abate.
He's an emotional player, Jason. He's an emotional player. It's gonna happen. I
just remember on the last one, I remember the whistle going, I bet it's Abate.
And it was Abate. And so they had an opportunity. They had a real opportunity there at the end to get the equalizer and send this thing to overtime. Ultimately, it didn't happen.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
UNO pulls out a 3-2 win.
Good road win for them after almost a month-long break.
Yeah. You did wonder how they were going to play that first game, right? That's a long time to be without
Exactly. Plus they're playing on the big ice. They're playing on Olympic size sheet, which I don't know. And maybe you know this. I don't know if the new Colorado College on campus arena that they're working on that's going to be done this next fall is going to use an NHL size sheet, um, or not. But that might be this series might be one of the final times that we play Colorado College on the Olympic ice.
NHL sheet is what I've seen
Heard that they're going to
from
do. Okay,
multiple places. So
that'll be good. That'll be good.
there's a big push in North America, both Canada and the United States, to kind of move away from regular hockey being played on Olympic sheets, uh, and having specific tournaments and practicing and things like that, where
Right.
USA and Canadian hockey can get some experience at it before they go to international competitions.
Sure.
And there's some debate about that as to whether or not that's the right direction for them to take. But ultimately it comes down to most of these kids want to play in the NHL, and playing a lot of NHL scouts I've talked to have said that playing on that Olympic sheet is actually a detriment to those Colorado College kids, and so um, it helps with some skill set things, but ultimately they've found that they struggle when they make that transition because you're limited in time and space on the NHL rink, and they're just not prepared for that.
Gotcha. So that'll definitely help a program that's been ailing the last few seasons.
Right. It'll be
So
nice. It'll
yeah,
be a really nice arena. So
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see how that thing looks when it's done. Maybe I'll get a chance to go. Maybe I'll get a chance to go out there. We took a trip out to CC in 2012, so it'd be fun to go out there and see that at some point.
we'll go. We go out for Avs games, and I'll just pick up a DU game or go down to CC or something.
Sure.
Whenever we do that, a few years in a row, we've been able to catch the DUCC series. Um, Go see some gold pan hockey, which is kind of fun. Of course, I've grown up with that, so I'm familiar with those teams, and I remember those days, so they're teams I can really follow.
Yeah, that's always fun to be able to do that when you're on the road for sure. So let's take us to the Tuesday night game. The second game in the series against
Tuesday.
Colorado College. Tuesday. It's weird saying Tuesday.
I don't know what was our problem. Like, we looked terrible this game. Like, terrible.
Yeah,
Really, really bad.
I don't know if it was a case where the team was tired or not having some of your key I don't know what the hell I'm saying. We didn't have some of our key players in the lineup, and I do wonder if that impacted the overall energy and fatigue level of the team going into that second game, especially when you're playing at high altitude and you haven't played in a month, so you're a little bit rusty anyway. Could have been, or it just might have been one of those nights. It's probably hard for teams to get that pumped up to play Colorado College, because it's, I mean, when you're playing North Dakota, mentally you're going to be all in, but when you're playing one of the teams that's kind of been on par with you the last few seasons, sometimes it's hard, or it's been hard for UNO to kind of get up for some of those games.
Statistically, the first period seemed fairly even. I would say that watching it, I would not have expected that. I think that it seemed like Cara College had the better of the opportunities and more opportunities, but ultimately shots are 9-7 for Cara College after the first. Both teams, well, Cara College had 3 power plays, UNO had one, and no one scores in the first period. Again, we go into the second period 0-0, and UNO gets the first goal this time. Instead of a nice play by Kevin Conlon like we had on Monday night, Tuesday's goal was kind of one of those fluky ones, right? It was a strange shot. I'm using air quotes since we're on the radio, kind of thing. Uh, Tyler Weiss goes to pass the puck across to, I'm
Taylor Ward,
pretty
I
sure it was
believe.
Ward
Yeah.
coming across the
Yep.
side, and it goes off the defenseman's stick and up and over the goaltender's shoulder, and we're up 1-0.
Yeah, and it's really hard to see sometimes with the web streams, and their camera's fairly far away at Colorado
Yeah,
College. So I actually thought maybe he had gotten it to Ward, and Ward had put that in, but no, alas, it was Tyler Weiss. So look, we'll take a goal that's a little bit fluky. That was a good way to get the game started. Good on Tyler Weiss for getting the job done there.
Really hope they were going to kind of bounce back, and that was going to be kind of like Monday night, where
Yep.
you get that first one, and then you just start pressing, and you get a couple more, and we can kind of coast our way to a victory. But unfortunately, just a few minutes later, Cara College evens the score, and
At that
it's
point,
back to
yeah, at that
tight hockey.
yep, at that point, I'm wondering if this game is going to be a little bit different than the first game in the series. I'm wondering if this game is going to be Colorado College's game. I was almost thinking split there at that point. I wasn't real worried, but we just hadn't been playing great, and those are the kind of games that we struggle with. Um,
We gave up almost 20 shots in that second period. I was really worried about how we were going to find a way out of this with points, let alone find a victory out of this.
exactly. Overall, on the game, we were outshot almost 2-1, basically 2-1 by Colorado College, and that's not the position
Yeah.
you want to find yourself in for sure.
So third period comes in, and UNO Kevin Conley comes through for us yet again, and a big goal to give us the lead. Krenzen with the assist officially on that one. I don't remember the play specifically as to how Krenzen got it to him, but that's what's on the score sheet, so we'll go with that.
That's really weird because for some reason, and I could be, it's fatigue maybe setting in for me. I could have sworn I thought it seemed to me like Conley. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see Krenzen give him the puck. It seemed like Conley had it the whole time. It seems like he took it from UNO's defensive zone and skated it down to the offensive zone. But maybe you remember differently. I don't know.
I quite honestly, I'm just looking at the score sheet going, oh, okay.
Krenzen had an assist. Yeah.
That's
So,
fine. Works for me.
okay.
In any case, we're up 2-1. Doesn't last incredibly long again. Couple minutes later,
Nope.
Cara College evens the score, and honestly, after that, I really was just waiting for the light to light up behind Roden. Roden, for I don't think we've said this, Roden started and finished the game on Tuesday. So I was just kind of waiting. I thought Cara College just seemed to constantly be pushing back and pushing back and pushing back, that it was just a matter of time before they put another one in, and we were going to lose 3-2.
Well, I will say you mentioned Roden. I was glad to get see him get another chance in net. I do think that's important for the team, especially with everything that's going on with the COVID and everything else. I mean, I don't know how many players have or have not had COVID on the UNO team. I mean, maybe it's gone through all of them now, but it's good to give those other goaltenders a little bit of time, a look in net.
Well, and we'll talk about the next series, but because this falls on a Monday, Tuesday, you now have a shorter turnaround to the next series.
Yep.
So it's going to be important to use both goaltenders just to make sure that you don't wear one out having to play, say, Tuesday, Friday,
right,
when they're used to playing, Saturday to Friday. So
yep,
it is going to be important moving forward. So third period ends.
The game goes to OT. I don't know what you were thinking. I was just like, oh my goodness. I was worried. I'm like, oh man, we're going to blow this. We're going to blow it right here. In this 3-on-3 OT.
I actually liked our chances. I was
you know what? Okay.
I'm like, if going to going to 3-on-3, I thought we've got the better skaters.
On paper, you're right. On paper, we do have the better skaters. But I was just worried. I'm like, we're going to lose this on some fluky bounce or bobble here.
I kind of figured it was going to be one of those, like, either we'd come out of the gate and get a quick goal in the first, minute or two of the overtime period, or was probably going to, end overtime even, and we were going to see
go to a shootout.
In a shootout.
I would have been interested to see Roden in a shootout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
But we didn't get there.
We did not get there.
By the skin of our teeth.
By the skin of our teeth, right at the end of that 3-on-3 overtime period. Tyler Weiss puts the puck in the net. And if you look at the clock on the TV broadcast, we were out of time by a couple of seconds.
Completely out of time. he hadn't even I don't even think he had thought about shooting
Yeah.
that puck when that clock said 0. So like
But
the people here in the house are yelling, and I'm like, I don't think so. Because
but
all you have to go off is what you can see, right?
right. But as people pointed out, the Colorado college broadcast with
Uh
the play-by-play guy that yells at us for 2.5 straight hours.
huh.
Oh my gosh. He just it's like, dude, just
John was feeling a little
do you suppose he talks like this? He talks like this all the time. It's too. I don't know. I mean, we've been listening to him for years now, but it just. You know my
it was
feelings
getting
on
on
this.
your
We were
nerves.
talking about this, getting on my nerves. Okay,
But you were saying
what
the
was I
time
saying?
clock
Oh, but a lot of people were
on the
saying that the
broadcast.
time clock on the broadcast didn't really match the time clock in the game. You know, so
Well,
fat lot of
clearly
good
it
that
didn't.
does us. Yeah, it obviously didn't, because was it that the horn didn't sound, or the whistle hadn't been blown, or
No, so the horn, like the clock was at 0 when they were doing the replays and stuff. Like the clock goes to
yes,
0
it
on the
was
broadcast, and then it's like a full second or two before the horn
horn
goes out.
sounds. Yeah,
But I was watching the banter back and forth on Twitter, and I
yeah,
usually just try to stay out of it because I'm kind of like, this is the best forum for me to kind of say my piece, and then
right,
people can just chastise me in comments.
yeah,
But I didn't want to get involved. But the thing is like the horn isn't official either. Like there's a delay from when the clock goes 0 and the horn goes. There's a slight fraction of a second from that delay. So what really matters is the official time, which is kept in the score
yes,
at the scorer's table,
yep,
and the point at which the puck completely crosses the line. Completely. This isn't football, and I think a lot of Nebraska fans I've ran into, they're like, "Oh, that's a goal." No, 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 no. There's no invisible plane crap in college hockey or in pro hockey at all. If it's not completely across the line, it's not across the line. So they went into the score table, they looked, they would have every view time synced to the score clock, and it didn't seem like they reviewed it for very long and came out. And I mean, I think UNO was probably half undressed and 3/4 of the team on the bus before they even decided to go in and look at it. But
yes, but Colorado was not. They were still on the bench.
oh, they were arguing it.
Stop
Well,
the
because
count.
what my friends told me was that the time on the TV and the time on the clock that runs around the ring that you can easily see without having to look all the way up to the jumbotron
Okay.
at the World Arena, that those two clocks were in sync, but the time that was on the jumbotron was different.
Okay.
So the coach thought it clearly was after the whistle, because the clock that he could easily see was the one that would have said that it was 0 well before going in. I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm told by people who were physically in the arena.
That makes
So,
sense to me, but Coach
Yeah.
Haviland was wrong. Just wrong. And
Yeah,
Tyler
I mean,
Reese,
ultimately it comes
Tyler
down
Reese got the
to-
goal, yeah.
Yeah.
And we
I
got
mean,
we got the extra point in conference play.
Yeah, and a big, I think Weiss needed that after. I think he knew going into the second game that, I don't want to say it's his fault, but like there are a lot of things they're going to be able to be, linked back to his decision to shoot the puck after the whistle, right? And so
Yep.
like he needs to step up and, I think drive some of the play and kind of make up for that, I say, to some extent. I don't know how much coach was mad about that or how much they feel like some of the things that happened. I personally feel like a lot of things that happened in the latter parts of the game 1 and game 2 could be attributed back to that. But it was good to see him kind of take out, because he really dominated a lot of times when he had the puck, especially in overtime. The 4 shifts that he had in overtime, because they started throwing him out there with the different people. He's a playmaker. He's got really good hands. He's a good skater. He's not your big brawly guy, but when you've got when you've got bigger ice and more room with fewer players on it,
Yep.
it's a dream position, I think, for him. And I think he almost got Ward at one point in time. There was someone else. I want to maybe say Brichette or something that he was out with, that I thought for sure was a goal with a great pass from Weiss. And it went off the crossbar, I think is what the announcer
It
said.
was, yeah, that was a beautiful opportunity there.
It's hard to tell what it clanged off of, but I mean, it was loud and like I knew it hit iron. I just didn't know which piece of iron it hit. So yeah, it was nice to see him out there just flying around in that 3-on-3.
Yeah, 2 goals on the night. That was a good outing for
Yeah.
him. It's been a good season for him so far. So, UNO in the NCAA record books gets the sweep. They end up getting 5 points out of the series because NCHC play, if it goes to overtime, each team gets a point, and then the winner of either the 3-on-3 overtime or the shootout gets the extra point. So,
And the important part of that is that we sit in sole possession of third place in the conference now with those points. St. Cloud is 3 points ahead of us, but they've played 3 more games than we have.
right, other teams have been playing the last,
Yeah.
4 weeks that we haven't been playing. And
So
so right now we're 8-3-1 overall. It's a
So we've got a good opportunity to catch St. Cloud. We've got some distance between us and Denver and Duluth. And we haven't played North Dakota. North Dakota's only 5 points ahead of us. So one sweep, a sweep and 50-50 with everything else with North Dakota, and you've got yourself top spot in the NCHC. Like that. And I think while argue in the comments about how likely that is to happen, I feel you. I can hear you all yelling at me right now anyways, but it's possible, right? Like you've put yourself in a position after the pod and these games starting the second half of the season to say we have a chance to be the top team in what is arguably the top league in the country.
exactly, and we have 6 games against North Dakota left. 6
Right.
games. Yeah. A lot of opportunity there. So,
Yeah, totally. So
yeah, it should be pretty exciting.
So let's do our players of the game before we move on to the next series.
Players of the series.
Of the
Players
weekend.
Of the series we're doing.
I'm so used to doing it every game. We got player of the series now. We're back to that.
We are. I know. We got used to that player of the game. So, player of the series. There's 2 guys I really think you could pick during this that are logical picks. We've talked at length about one of them. We've also talked glowingly about another one. So I will pick the one that we've been talking glowingly about, and that would be Kevin Conley, who gets 2 goals in the series. Obviously, a rock, a very steady and dependable player for us, and him getting that first goal on Monday night was, I think, really important. So, yeah, Kevin Conley, to me, is my player of the series, although I almost went with the other potential player of the series, which Jason might pick, or he might pick some, off the wall player here.
I don't see how it's really hard not to pick the guy who got you the extra point.
Yep.
In overtime. And I think you left me to pick Tyler Weiss just because it'll make fans of the podcast happy so that they can clamor about fanboy and all that stuff. But
that's exactly why I did
it. So I will go with Weiss. I thought the one knock on the weekend from him is that decision to shoot the puck after the whistle. That's the one I'm like, oh man, because he was having a really good game that first night. So it's just kind of just one oops, and so I'll let it go, especially with his play. I'd argue that him and Conley, hands down, were the 2 best players on Tuesday night. And it's like, to me, it wasn't even close after that.
Yeah, I would agree with
that.
that.
None of the teams seemed to really gel after that, those 2. So,
yeah, I completely agree with that. That was my other potential pick. So, yeah, good series for UNO.
So thanks for leaving them for me.
We'll see how they do in this upcoming series this weekend at Baxter Arena against Denver University.
Which lucky for us, Denver is playing better now all of a sudden. Couldn't we have seen them in the pod when they were like crap?
Well, you look
Like
at both
they were
Denver.
struggling so hard out here, and now it's like, oh,
Yeah, both Denver and Western Michigan are starting to look a lot better here in the second half of the season. Obviously, those are two teams that are really strong on their home ice. Um, so that's part of the reason I'm seeing it. But Denver, a team that we've had trouble against for several seasons now, we get them
I
here.
don't want to ask the question when was the last time we beat them at home, but
I don't want to either. It's been a while. And if I
I'm gonna
get it
say
wrong, I'm going to get dinged on this. And I think we had talked about it
even if you
probably.
get it right, it's gonna make me feel bad. So let's just
It's
say
yes,
it sucks. We'll move
it's
on.
it's been yeah, it's been to I don't know that we've beaten them at Baxter Arena. I don't think we have. I could be wrong. I don't think we have.
I'm pretty sure they said something that there was Denver and it was Denver and Duluth had never lost at Baxter.
Yeah, it was either Denver and Duluth or Denver and St. Cloud. I can't remember. It might have been. I think you might be right. That's crazy. So we have an opportunity here. It's UNO's first series back. It's going to be in over a month at Baxter Arena. Fans are going to be in the stands.
All five of you, yeah.
All five of us. They announced today that a limited number of students are going to be in Baxter Arena for this too. So who knows? Who knows
Woohoo.
how limited that's going to be? So yeah, me and the five other fans. That's going to be that'll be an interesting experience that I can talk about on the
Hopefully,
podcast.
hopefully they still have the cutouts there, and if they do, you need to go get a selfie with my cutout or something for me.
Yeah, I'll be curious because those were positioned in prime seats, as you know, in the arena, and the question is, where are they going to put? Obviously, there's a lot of room because it's very, very, very limited capacity, but I'll be interested to see where they position the cutouts. I will be on the look. I mean, I'm not going to spend like a ton of time going around and look. I mean, I'm going to try and limit my exposure as much as, because I know a lot of people, who are going to be I presumably that'll be at these games. And so the last thing I need to get in are like half a dozen conversations since it's our first home hockey since last March.
Well, if you can pull strings or something, I just want mine to be in my seats. Put my cardboard cutouts in my seats.
Well, and I'll tell you,
It'll just make me feel better.
they haven't sold tickets in your seats for any of the games, so that definitely would be a doable thing.
There we go.
I think so. Well, yeah, I'll see what I can do on that. We'll see what we can do.
So predictions?
Predictions for Denver. God, I don't know. What are you thinking? I'm almost reluctant. The last time we picked a series, hockey got canceled for a month, so I'm a little worried. Although DU just had their kind of COVID issues the last couple of weeks, so maybe we're through that now. But
Yeah, and UNO's just had theirs, so I'm gonna lower my rating of the potential for a COVID cancellation result. Um, I I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say that we split. And I'm gonna say that UNO wins on Sunday
okay,
and Denver wins on Saturday.
yeah, Denver just got done with a split this last weekend against North Dakota. They won 4-1 the first night, and then they lost 5-1 the second night. So they're kind of a they're a tough they're sort of a tough team to figure. Previously, they had played a game against Colorado College and won 6-1 on January 2nd. So I don't know. I don't know. They play well, like I said, they play well at Magnus Arena. So I don't know how they'll do coming in, but I really will tell you, I think we have the talent on this team to go toe to toe with them. It'll be really interesting to see. And one of the big unknowns is that we don't know if Tyconic Randall and Brandon Scanlon will be back in the lineup this weekend, and that leaves me scratching my head a little bit because I'm worried we might not have the depth and we might see that fatigue in the second game. But I'm going to be bold. And I'm going to say UNO sweeps
Whoa.
DU at Baxter Arena.
You think it's gonna get in their head that they performed poorly out here in the pod, huh?
Yeah, they did not do well out here in the pod. So yeah, let's hope that that kind of gnaws at their mind. Um, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. I have no idea how this series could go. It could go either way. Again, this is one of those teams that we've just struggled against, and sometimes when you have those teams that you've struggled against, it's hard to kind of kind of get the monkey off your back in that series. So it'll be really interesting to see. But I'm going with a sweep. It'll be my first time back at UNO hockey games. I'm very interested to see how this goes, and I know you guys will be at home. And there are a number of good fans like you guys who opted not to buy tickets for this
COVID Cup.
this the co- for the super spreader party. It's a I only tease, but it's definitely going to be on people's minds for these games. So suit up, mask up, and I guess we'll see you at the arena. But I'm going with a sweep. Jason's going with a split, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
I think the big thing for me that's gonna make or break that weekend is going to be UNO has the second best penalty kill in the country right now,
Yes, they do.
and if we can keep that up, I think that we've got a good chance against Denver. Um, if we have some troubles on our penalty kill, it's going to be a long weekend.
Indeed, it is, and that's a team that doesn't have some of the superstars that they've had in years past, but they've got a lot of really good young players, and they've got a terrific
Yeah,
goaltender in Magnus Krona. So I'm uh, I'm excited to
it's
see what
Denver. They've
happens.
always got a good pipeline. So
It's they definitely do. That was kind of reignited when Jim Montgomery became head coach, and their current head coach, who I should never have brought that up because his name is completely escaping me. But
Carlisle.
I'm on, yeah, Dave Carl. Yeah,
Hmm.
David Carl's a good head coach. And what's really interesting, and I'm just going to throw this out there because this is an interesting little tidbit. But his two assistants are Tavis McMillan and Dallas Ferguson, which basically recreates the coaching staff from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Back in the day when we were in the CCHA, Tavis McMillan and Dallas Ferguson were both head coaches, and they were both very talented. McMillan was a head coach for a while, and Ferguson was his assistant. And then McMillan moved on, and Ferguson became the head coach there. And now they're the staff at DU. So think about that,
Hmm.
fans. Those solid Fairbanks head coaches that did a lot of great things for that program back in the early 2000s. They are the key cogs helping to guide this team out in DU. So maybe that's why, because we struggled against UAF back in the day in the CCHA. So maybe that's why we struggle against them so mightily. So, but one of those interesting little trivia tidbits. So I thought I'd throw that in there.
Very interesting.
Okay, well, until next time, be sure to follow Mavpuck on Facebook and Twitter. If you want to hang out on Facebook and Twitter. If these days you're not interested in hanging out on Facebook, Twitter, I wouldn't blame you. Don't worry about it. You always know where to find this podcast if you're listening now. So be sure to tune in next time because I'm sure we'll have a lot of interesting things to talk about at the DU series. So until next time, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.